All right. So here we are on the front page of KCWorks, and I just want to give you a quick tour of the big picture of what you can find in the repository here. From the front page, you see a few things. One of them is a search box, some links to some support materials, help materials, a few of our featured collections, and recent works that have been uploaded to the repository. But if we type something into the search box here and click search or hit enter, that will take us to the search interface page. This is the main place where you explore the repository when you're looking for things on a topic or a particular author or a particular title or any basic searching. You can also get to that from the top bar here just by clicking on search, and it brings you to the same place. If you click through on any of the items, it brings you to the detail page for that item. This one apparently is a docx file, so it's not previewable. Let's see if there's one um, that has, yeah, here we go. So if the file format is something like a PDF or several other file formats that we can preview, you'll see a nice large preview here that you can also expand into a full screen interactive preview. You have some metadata down the side, subjects. You can generate a citation by clicking Cite This in a variety of different formats. You can download the work by clicking download, and it gives you a sense of what collections this work belongs to. That's all right there when you go to the record detail page. But then you have some other tabs. You can get more details about the record. You can get a list of the contributors with more details about their role and their institutional affiliations and link to their profile on Knowledge Commons or their ORCID profile. There's a page of analytics, and this item was just freshly uploaded, so it has no views or downloads yet, but this is where that data lives. And then if there are multiple files for a work, this tab lets you browse through all of those different files, not just the one that's previewed on the front tab. And you can download them individually or download them all as a collective zip file. Okay, so that's the basics of searching for works and viewing and interacting with individual works. The other component here is collections. And so if I click on collections, that brings me to the landing page for collections in general. And you can do a couple of things here. You can browse through any collections that you are a member of. In other words, you're one of the curators, or you have reader permission for a restricted collection. Those are listed up at the top here. You have a few of the newest collections that have been added to the repository. And then there are a few collections that are for commonses. These are the large organizations that use Knowledge Commons as their primary communication platform. You can see their collections and then collections for journals or organizations, etc. And with each of these, you can see all of the collections in those categories just by clicking See All. The other thing you can do if you are thinking about a particular collection or you want to do a search and discover more collections is just type in the search box here. And that brings you to a search page for collections. And I typed STEM, and so you can see that's giving me a whole bunch of collections that have been set up around STEM issues, and they have STEM in the collection title. If I want to look at one of those, I can click through and see the landing page for the collection. And here you'll have a little bit about the collection and a page where you can view and search all of the works that are in that collection. So this particular collection has 111 works. And I can interact with those and search them just the same way I do on the regular Works search interface, but in this case, it's restricted to just this collection. If the collection has a public list of its members with their roles, uh, that will be here as well, etc. So that gets us interacting with individual works. It gets us interacting with collections. Oh, and from the main collections page, you can also create your own collection by just clicking the new collection button. Um, the other area that is easy to overlook at first is your own dashboard. And so over in the right-hand side of the top bar, you have a link to your own Knowledge Commons profile, but then a link to your dashboard in Knowledge Commons Works. And there are three tabs here. The first one lists any draft or published records that you have created. Um, the second lists any collections that either you've created or you're a member of. You're a curator or a reader in that collection. And then there's a third tab that's your inbox for uh, requests and messages. So if I submit a work to be considered for inclusion in a collection, that submission request will live here in my inbox, and then I can see here and get notified about responses to that request. Also, if I am invited to join the curatorial team for a collection, that invitation will show up here, and this is where I can access the back and forth discussion around that invitation too. Um, since often you want to be notified right away about new requests, there's a link specifically for this inbox tab in the top bar here. So you have one link that goes to your own works and another link that goes to the inbox tab where you can view your requests. So what if I want to add a work and upload something myself? I click the Add a Work button. I've recently been working on a draft that I didn't save, and so that information was saved as I went in my browser, and the repository is asking if I want to recover that information, and if I say yes, then it will fill in the details that were unsaved from before. Um, if I have been working on a draft and I saved it, that draft I can access through my dashboard. And so you can see here the top item is entitled My Fantastic Chapter, and that is a draft that hasn't yet been published to the repository. And if I click on it, on the title, I can view a preview of its detail page. But if I want to edit it, I can click the edit button. And that lets me recover some unsaved changes to that item. And now here I am editing an ongoing draft. And the form here is the same whether you're editing a draft or whether you're creating a brand new draft. We have divided up the different kinds of information that we gather just into chunks that are a little bit more digestible, so you don't have one massive form to fill out. And the first chunk lets you decide what kind of resource this is. And so I've selected here book section because this is an imaginary book chapter. This lets me say whether I already have a DOI for this work, a digital object identifier or not. And if I don't, and I say no, then the system will mint one for me and register it with DataCite. I can give my title, dates, and a little abstract or description. Now, the second page is where I can give more details about the publication, language, that kind of thing about this record. And this is information that'll be crucial for things like generating a citation for people who want to cite the work. But you'll also notice that choosing the resource type here is fairly important because which resource type I choose will determine what kinds of information I'm asked for on the Details tab. So right now, I've said this work is a book section. It's a chapter. And so I'm being asked for things that are relevant to a book chapter, a book section, a book title, the pages for the section, the book publisher and place of publication, what volume the book is. Maybe it's in a monograph series, that sort of thing. If I go back and I change the resource type and I say, no, this isn't a book section, this is a journal article, and I come back to the details page, now the fields have changed to things that are relevant for journal articles. I'm being asked for the journal title, volume, issue, article pages, an ISSN for the journal if I want to provide one, that sort of thing. There are a lot of different resource types that you can choose from. So we've highlighted some of the most common ones with the main buttons here, but if you click Other, then you can search a long list with everything from documentary films to preprint text documents or legal comments and everything in between, visual art. But I'm going to continue on saying this is a book section. And once I have entered the publication details and provided the language, I can provide a URL if I want. Then I can continue on to the next tab and provide information about the contributors. Now, I did already add myself as a contributor here, but let me remove myself and show you how easy it is. If you are a contributor to this work and you're uploading your own work, all you have to do is click Add Myself, and it pre-populates your information from your Knowledge Commons profile. If you have an ORCID ID on your Knowledge Commons profile, that's automatically brought in and linked here too. You can say what your role is. It defaults here to author, but you can say that you were a team lead on a research project or whatever. And it pre-populates your institutional affiliations, but you can add more if you want to, that then gets included in the information for this work. We've also added a fairly unusual, unique field here in the information about your work where you can declare how AI, generative AI, has been used in the creation of your work. This is increasingly important that we're explicit about this. And so I've said, yes, I did use some generative AI, and then it lets me describe how. I might say I used Midjourney to generate the figures for my article. If I continue on, then there's a tab, Make It Findable. And this is where I can add subject headings from the very, very large fast subject headings vocabulary that's created by the Library of Congress. And it is sometimes a challenging vocabulary to search because it is huge and it has so many very detailed, finely grained subjects. And so sometimes you might want to limit your subject and you can say, I'm going to search topic subject terms or subject terms that have to do with events or forms or genres of communication, etc. And that can just help find the subject tags that you're looking for. And if you can't find something that you're looking for, you can type your own term in here. And so I might want to say, this is a chapter that has to do with repositories. And I hit enter, and now that's added as my own free text tag. And then when people are searching the repository, those searches can include hits based on the formal subject headings or based on user-defined keywords. I can provide a content warning if I want to, if I decide there's something about the content that I want to flag to people right at the top on the detail page. And I can add information about related works of a whole variety of different kinds. If this is one section of a much larger work, you can add information about that larger work here. If it's a pre-pub version of a published work, that's living elsewhere, you can provide that information here, and a whole lot of other relationships. Um, there's a lot of power in this field here that's not necessarily user-friendly yet. And so that's one of the many things that we're planning to work on as we move forward, is to make it a little bit easier for you to recognize and add information about all kinds of different related works. But you can already work with that field yourself if you want to feel your way along. The next tab asks me whether I want to include this item in a collection. And I already, when I created the draft, chose STEM Education at State as the collection that I wanted to include this in. I can change that, or I can remove that while this is still in draft form before it's been published. Because until it's published, it hasn't actually been submitted to that collection for consideration yet. While it's a draft, I'm still just indicating that I'm planning to submit it. But if I haven't provided that information yet, I can just click select a collection, and then I have a searchable list of all the collections in the repository, and I can indicate which one I want to submit my work to if I want to. This is where I can control and update the record access. And I can either say I want the whole record to be restricted, in which case it won't show up in public searches. Or I can say I don't want the whole record to be restricted, but I want the files to be inaccessible, in which case people will be able to see the detail page for your record, but they'll get a message saying that the files are only accessible on request or something like that. And if my publisher has required an embargo, I can add that embargo with the time limit and a little explanation if I want to as well. The second last tab is where I upload the files. And if I remove the files here, which I can still do because this is a draft that's not published yet, you can see what this looks like. I can upload up to 500 gigs of data per work and up to 100 files per work. So it's not infinite. You don't want to upload your astronomical data sets, but it is reasonably large. It can handle some fairly large data set files, especially for things like social science research. We also list below here the kind of file types that can be previewed from the detail pages on Knowledge Commons works. So you can upload any kind of file you want and attach it to your record. You can also add multiple files in this field and upload as many as you want up to that 100 file limit. But if you want those files to be previewable and readable right on the detail page, then you need to stick to the file types that we have so far built previewers for. And there are a variety of text file formats, image formats, video and audio formats, which can be watched and listened to right on your detail page. Structured data like JSON or CSV files and zip files. So there are quite a few different previewers and some flexibility there. We hope to expand those previewers in the future, but that gives you a sense of what will be most accessible and most useful to people when they come and visit your work. And I will just go ahead and again choose one of my old articles to upload, and that's how the upload process goes. Then I can add a license. I had already added a license here, but if I hadn't, I could either add a custom license that I described myself, or more often what you want to do is add a standard license. And we provide a database here of just about all of the common open source licenses, as well as an all rights reserved license. And you can search this list. I'm going to add the Creative Commons attribution license, and then that becomes part of the metadata for the record too. So there are a lot of steps here, but we've tried to break it down into relatively bite-sized chunks. And then the final tab is where you can save your draft or preview it or publish it either directly if you are not submitting it to a collection, or if you click publish here and you've selected a collection, at that point it gets submitted to the collection curators for their approval, their consideration. Or if you decide you want to delete this draft entirely, while it's still a draft, you can just click delete, and then it goes away and disappears from your dashboard. I'm going to click Save Draft. Oops, I left the embargo on, so I'm not going to try and go back and fix that. I'm going to go to, oh, here we go. I need to click Edit. All right, so if I come back to the Edit page and I want to preview, oh no, it still has that embargo information. We are still working on some of the bugs here, but it helps also if I keep straight what I'm adding. And now this should let me preview. Yes, here we go. Okay, so this is a preview of the detail page for my work. And you can see the AI use flag is a dismissible flag that shows up on the side here. Same thing if I add a content warning to my work. But I just want to highlight a couple of things. One is that this is highlighted as a preview until I click publish. And I can go back and forth between previewing it and editing it. If I go back here, and I'm going to remove the collection because I don't want to actually submit this. But if I go and I actually click publish, now it is published as a version of my work on the repository. And I can make changes to the metadata, but if I want to make changes to the files, then I'll need to create a new version. And I can create as many versions as I want, and those versions, there's a record of all of them. But once it's published, you'll notice that there's a button here, Manage This Work. And that's important because that's where you can come and edit the metadata by clicking Edit. Or if you want to create a new version, you can just create the new version button. And if I create a new version, then where it says version 1 here on the detail page, that will list all of the different versions. And any versions that have public access, people can click through and view each version right from the detail page here.